what you shared with us sparked a question for me, and that is, at what point in your life did you, some of you said the word call, and as a minister, it's kind of a big thing for us. We talk about when we were called to ministry, but I see all work as a call and a vocation. So I'm wondering if there was a particular point in your life when you said, somebody needs to be concerned about this, and I'm someone that needs to be concerned about this, and I'm even going to make my life about this. Can you share with us, perhaps, at what point in your life, or when did you receive that call to do this kind of work?
So I would say I received mine not too long ago. This was definitely not something that I necessarily planned on doing. But I was born and raised in Carlsbad, and I left home in 2011, and I moved home in 2018, and the fracking boom, the Permian oil boom, had been going on for about a year at that point. And I'll admittedly say I did not think about climate change much, horrifyingly enough, I just did not. I was not very aware. And I moved home, and I was home for a year, and initially it was just noticing, we had an influx of like 20,000 people. We're a very small town, and within a year, 20,000 people are coming to our town, so there wasn't housing. The price of housing was astronomical. There wasn't enough, school space to house all these students that we had. There was daily car crashes, like all these things that really had an impact on day-to-day life. But within a year of moving back, a lot of people I loosely knew, my own mother, friends of mine in the early 20s, were getting diagnosed with cancers, and not only cancers, but rare and aggressive cancers that shouldn't be hitting people as young as they were being hit with these cancers. And that's when I just started to get curious at that point. And nothing happened. COVID came, a whole year went by, and then one of the CCFF leaders, Citizens Caring for the Future, who I work for, called me, and he had seen something I put on Facebook or something. And he said, I think you would like this lady that's with Earthworks, and she's going to be here looking at pollution in the oil and gas field, if you want to come out and meet with us and see that. And I said, sure. And so that day I met them, and they told me about Citizens Caring for the Future, and that they were looking for an organizer. And at the time, I was like, I don't know if I'll do that. But it was definitely, I remember driving home that day thinking, oh, I was supposed to meet those people. And so it was definitely a calling, and it hasn't been long. It's been about 2 years. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think I can't remember when I had this calling, because I think I felt it for a long time, maybe since I was a little girl. And it's not tied specifically, for example, to the environment and issues and the climate change situation that we're experiencing right now, but my calling is more related to my community and helping people who are in very vulnerable situations. And I think that's why I say it was since I was a little girl, because I grew up in El Paso and have family in Ciudad Juarez. I would cross the border all the time and see the disparities, see the poverty, see the struggles and the inequality. So I think it has been part of my life. And since then, I have that calling to do something to help my community and my communities now, with working with migrants who are coming to the border and who now are, part of our home, and they're welcome that way. They're welcome to our border community as their home. So when I'm working with the Colombians, I am a little bit over a year now, I'm learning more about the environment and the situation that is happening in all these other places around the world where they have communities just like mine, who are vulnerable, who just need to be recognized first and recognized for their identity and their work. So I think my calling is more regarding that vulnerable communities. And in this current ecological crisis, I think I see the urgency and the need for me to be that voice and to help bring more awareness to all of these communities.
I
think I relate a lot to what Cynthia was saying. I've always had this calling of wanting to do something that was meaningful and, just this inner desire to put something good in the world during my time on it. But that was not really, that picture of what that looked like wasn't really formed until I was in high school. And I took an environmental class, like an AP environmental science class. And that was just kind of the vision of like, oh, this is something that touches everything. It's our land, it's our environment, it's science, it's policy, it's people, it's all the things all together. And like this is a way to do many things that are very good and could help a lot of people in our planet. And so that's kind of the calling that I was following through college, and I was going more so like the science route. Like my whole life goal was to maybe like find an overgrazed patch of land and plant some like native plants on it. But then the year that I graduated was the year that our previous administration had taken us out of the Paris Agreement. And I realized I had this moment of reckoning where I realized that all the science and all the facts don't really matter if you can't communicate it and put it out into something meaningful into the world. So that's kind of what started me down a path of like going away from the sciencey path and literatures and stuff, and going more towards being able to communicate with people and working together to go towards a more meaningful action and actually making like a difference together with like the communication and having everything like that be central to it. So that was the little threads that kind of led me down. Like, oh, well, what if you can do this, and what if you tried advocacy? Like, I don't know what that is, but let's give it a go. And I just kept following that thread and just staying open and faithful that this was calling me towards something that I hadn't imagined. Like, I didn't really know what this kind of work entailed, but just keeping an open mind. And it's been much bigger than fixing a little patch of land somewhere.
Well, I would say I've always had a certain amount of like respect and nerdiness about like the earth and the environment. Definitely took environmental science in college and that kind of thing. It's always been very personal for me though. It was never something that I felt like as a career to be drawn to. So I would say that like my call to this work was a literal phone call from my friend Anne. She and I ran into each other at a demonstration at UNM because there was a student group who was organizing for UNM to divest certain of their funds from polluting in other corporations, right? And divestment is a concept that I've been familiar with through my job because we had also been supportive of a divestment campaign to encourage entities to divest from private prisons that were detaining refugees and migrants. So that's like a language that I understood, right? Is like this idea of like financial movements and decisions to support social change, right? So anyways, here I am about 10 months later on the board of IPL. I think trying to mesh these, I think of them as very different like parts of myself. Like the climate anxious part of me is like the same part of me that as a mom that's worried about my kids and their future. It's the part of me that is like rooted in my community here in central New Mexico. My attorney brain is like a different part of my brain, but I think like there's definitely places where those two parts of me overlap. And hopefully, hopefully this part of me is the baby part that is just going to get to have more opportunities to put some of those skills that I've developed as a legal advocate maybe to work in service of my kids' futures.